Smart, thank you. And I am going to quiet myself for a moment so that each of our panel participants can introduce themselves. And Kelly, I'll go ahead and you're at the top of my screen, so I'm going to go ahead and start with you. Go ahead, Kelly. You want to unmute?
Hi all, my name is Kelly Wolmerhauser and I'm participating today to share a little bit of my story. I have a child with a disability and just going to talk a little bit about the Positive Supports program.
Thank you. Welcome, Kelly. Lisa, you want to go ahead and introduce yourself next?
Hi, everybody. I'm Lisa Nothouse, and I actually work for the Division of DD as a Supporting Families lead, but today I'm here as a parent.
Thank you, Lisa. Welcome. And Rachel, you want to introduce yourself?
Hey, good morning, everybody. I'm Rachel Barber, and I am an inclusion specialist with United for Children based out of St. Louis, Missouri. We do serve all of Missouri, though, and I am here as an inclusion specialist, but I am also a parent and a parent of children with special needs.
Thank you. Welcome, Rachel. So I want to start off with a question for Lisa and Kelly both, and just kind of hear about some your early experiences in your parenting journey.
Okay, well, I'll go first if you don't care. As I said, I'm a parent. My husband and I have 2 adult children and 3 grandchildren. Am I okay? Anyway, my youngest daughter does have a developmental disability, and she actually receives services through the Division of DD and our local SB 40 board here. So with her being 34 years old, I feel like that gives me a little bit of shared lived experiences that I can share with other folks, or maybe, I don't know, maybe it just makes me old, I don't know. But anyway, when Kathleen and I started talking about this parent panel, she asked me what was an aspect that I thought was important to share with families. And my mind started going back to the beginning and thinking about the journey that we've been traveling and are still traveling and will continue to travel. The first thing that came to my mind was connections. Without going through a whole lot of details, I'll try to stay on track. All the emotions came back, bubbled up to the top, thinking about the day that the pediatrician said, there's a problem and you need to get to a neurologist and make the first appointment that you can. I had some concerns all along, but when he dropped that bomb on me that day, things just kind of went into a fog. He handed me the number to Children's Hospital and told me to go home and call them immediately. No other discussion about, it's going to be okay, we're going to get through this, nothing like that. It was just a total shock. And even though I kind of anticipated some issues going on, every checkup he would tell me that things are okay, you're just overprotective. And because my other daughter is 2 years older, he kept saying you can't compare the 2 developmental stages. There's because my youngest daughter looked okay, he said there was nothing to be worried about. So you can imagine that finally, after a year's time of voicing my concerns to him and him to drop that bomb, it was kind of scary. I do not remember going home that day from that appointment. I do not remember calling Children's Hospital to make my appointment. And what I remember is the next few weeks being filled with fear, a whole fog, not really realizing day by day what we were going through, because my mind was all about all of the uncertainties. I was overwhelmed, didn't know where to turn, didn't know who to talk to. And I honestly don't think that I have ever felt so lost, so scared, and so alone. So fast forward a little bit, keep in mind that at this time, my family and I lived in this very small town where everybody knows everybody and news travels very fast. So one day out of the blue, my phone rang and it was another mom. And she said, you don't know me, but a mutual friend gave me your name and told me that you guys were going through some things. And I just want you to know that I'm a parent and wanted to know if there was anything that you would like to talk about. Well, 2 hours later, I did not know that I needed to talk to somebody like that. I had no clue. But I am thankful that she took the risk and made that phone call, because it was, like I said, at least a 2-hour conversation. And I can say that the person that answered that phone that day, me, is not the same person that hung up the phone that day, because that conversation with another mom made all the world of difference for me. We know in the field of disabilities, we talk about the three basic needs. Information and resources is one, tangible supports and services is another, and then peer supports and connections. All three are equally important, and they're all needed at different phases and times. So I can say from my journey that I really feel that the need to be connected to others does not stop. I don't think it will. As I shared, my daughter is 34 years old now, and I still have those needs, and they might be different, and they're still very, very important. So I work hard to stay connected to other moms that I know. And even still, family members will do what they can, friends will do what they can, but when I talk to another mom that has the same lived experiences, that makes a huge difference. So back in the day, this is pre-internet, so I'm really dating myself. We used to go out of town and I would grab the phone books, if anybody remembers what that is, or those are, take the phone books. St. Louis, Springfield, Columbia, the larger cities, and oh my gosh, I would just canvass those phone books for all kinds of different resources. I made tons of phone calls, and if somebody gave me a resource, I explored it. If I didn't need it right then, I would put it back in the file cabinet and save it for the next time when an issue came about. So the other thing I can say, connecting with other families, starting small parent support groups over the years has been extremely beneficial. And it's not just for me setting up in my work parent groups for other families. I got as much out of those work groups and family connections as they did, I'm sure. So I think Kathleen, we were talking, if I had one piece of advice to offer, it would be definitely to get connected. And I don't know if you want to share resources now or not, but I've got a couple that we can share that I would suggest as a starting point for families. Obviously, there's many more, and then the internet, Facebook, there's tons of places that families can go. Do you want me to share those resources now, or do you want to wait?
Let's wait. I did
later?
share Missouri Family to Family as you were talking about getting connected, as they have a program that can connect you to another family. So I put that one in the chat box as you were talking. And also, as you were talking, I was thinking about what Kiki started her presentation with and the grief cycle and just what it's like to hear that information. And then just that it's something that comes up again as you kind of adjust to different expectations that you might be experiencing and putting in place. So thank you for that. And I think we'll come back and do some more resources. Kelly, you want to tell us about your early experiences?
Sure. Yeah. So again, I'm Kelly, and I'm just here to share some of my experiences. I have an 11-year-old with disability. He's on the autism spectrum, also has anxiety, ADHD. And I've participated with the positive supports through the Tools of Choice program. So my son's younger, 11, but really early on, similarly to Lisa, he was diagnosed with a disability. All the same things, fear, isolation, totally relate, not knowing what to do, overwhelmed. But I have to say that I believe that this was all identified very early through early intervention. So I kind of started with parents as teachers when he was just a few months old. He was my first child. I have 3. So just going through that process and getting connected with the community, parents as teachers. And so by 15 months old, I was getting reports that milestones weren't being met. And we were referred to the Missouri First Step program for therapies, which led to more early intervention strategies with United Services preschool, and then IEPs, and just transitioning to our home district preschool and getting set up with services and IEPs. All very overwhelming. So as he grew older and started into elementary school, he was presented with all kinds of challenges, academic, social, behavioral challenges, just trying to fit in. And behavior started to occur at home and really in the community, unfavorable behaviors, getting in trouble at school, and just all kinds of different things. It was very stressful, overwhelming, scary, just feeling like you don't fit in. So just being plugged in, reaching out to resources, I was able to find the Tools of Choice program. And I participated in their class. It's a 6-week class. You meet once a week. And I thought that this was going to fix all of my problems and cure all of this behavior stuff that was happening. But what I soon learned was that I just became really skeptical, and this isn't what I expected at all. But honestly, walking away from it, I finished it. It was really amazing. It's all about perspectives and just thinking outside the box. Just these kind of universally the way we as parents think about dealing with things. Our kids are a little bit different, so you have to think a little bit differently and maneuver things a little bit differently. And so I feel like this program really opened my eyes to that and helped tremendously with that. So they teach a lot of different techniques, go over a lot of things that people do in any relationship, not just parent to child, but it's beneficial for any relationship. And you just learn a series of universal practices on how to deal with certain situations, and go over scenarios and just learn all kinds of great techniques. And it was wonderful. And it's ongoing. You know, it's not something that after the 6 weeks, it's over, you're done, and everything's great. It's, you know, constant challenges come with disabilities. And so it's really broadened my mind and others around me too, that we can always learn and grow. We can always put these strategies into place and kind of maneuver them as we need to and navigate through new issues, problems. Things are very different from when my child was diagnosed in 2015. You know, that was 7 years ago. And so now he's going to be 12 next month. And so everything you thought that you knew, you got a great handle on that. But then as they mature and age, there's different stages of life. And so these are great strategies that I've learned to be able to deal with things as they come.
Thank you, Kelly. About your experience in Tools of Choice, of which I'm a facilitator, and it's honestly the best thing that ever happened to me. So I'm very happy that you've also had similar experiences. And a few things that you said, I put some links in the chat box for folks. So the first link I put in there is it's a link to the website where you can learn more about Tools of Choice. It's a free course offered by the division. The second one you mentioned, Parents as Teachers, was a really early place where you found support. So I put the Missouri Parents as Teachers Association website in there. That is a program that is run by a wide variety of organizations in the community. So it might be your local school district that has your Parents as Teachers program. It might be Easter Seals Midwest is another one here in Kansas City that does that. So it might be a community provider, or it might be your local school district, but that website would be a good place that anybody, regardless of where you are could start off your search there if you have a child that's younger than school age. And then you also mentioned coercion, which is what most of us do before we know any better. And then so it's still pretty hard to kick, honestly. So I put a list or a link to a podcast series. They're very short, just a few minutes each, about the 10 common coercions. And that's that podcast was recorded by Dr. Rogers, who brought Tools of Choice here to Missouri, and Lucas Evans, who's the chief behavior analyst for the division. So that's a really solid short thing you can do based on what Kelly was saying about those coercions. And then you also mentioned like how things come up, you know, still you're still implementing the tools. So I put a link to the family coaching workshops that we have twice a month that Kelly also takes part in, as a way that after you've taken the class, that's a place that you can get some more support. So all of those things are in the chat box. Please grab those links there. And then I want to ask Rachel I would like to learn a little bit more about what United for Children can do for the inclusion program that you work for.
Yeah, I'd love to share. So, inclusion program services include helping parents find an appropriate place of care for their child. We have a web-based library of all of the registered providers in all of Missouri, and that's like large centers, after-school programs, summer programs, religious programs, small centers, in-home providers. It's such a wide variety. So all we really need is your zip code and the age of the child. You're welcome to include as much or as little information when you are trying to get that information, but you can go to our website and you click on inclusion services, and then it kind of will show you, like, do you need help finding a daycare provider? So one of the big things that we do is we try to help match families and their children to the correct placement. So a lot of daycares and childcare facilities will post on their information in their websites if they have experience working with things. Like, there are some centers that maybe have an AED defibrillator if that's needed. There are some centers that might have extra staff, or they might have in-house therapy like PT or OT or speech, and then there are some that don't have that. Not everybody includes all of their details, but we do our best with any information that we're given to try to run that report and find, okay, so your zip code is 63033, and we found a list of 12 daycares in that area. We can filter what time they're opened, what age group of children they serve, if they're in home, if they're in a center, if they say they work with children with delays or not, if they accept the DFS subsidy or not. So there's just a lot of information out there, and a lot of people just aren't aware that we have that, access. So that's the first thing we do, is we try to match kiddos and families with the best place of care that they need. We also do referral and observations. So if there's any area of concern, challenging behavior, there may or may not be a diagnosis, but just any area of concern, a teacher or a parent can call and ask an inclusion specialist to come out to the daycare and do an observation. So me or one of my, coworkers who do the same thing, and we are actually, this particular service is all over Missouri. So we have Eastern region and the Western region, we have Central, and then we have North and South as well. So they can call and schedule us to go out to the daycare, meet with the teachers, we can observe the child. We can also just do a general classroom observation. It doesn't have to just be one kiddo or a parent. It depends who the referral came from. So if a parent wants support for their child at that daycare, we can go. If a teacher wants support, we can go. Or if a teacher or director are just like, it's not really one particular kid or not, it's just maybe the classroom feels hectic and they just feel like something's missing. We also have expertise to just observe that and then just kind of give some recommendations based on what we saw.
I love that, Rachel. And so it sounds like anybody can refer, the parent, or so really accessible. It sounds like I did put a link to the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education's website that lists these inclusion services that are available. And so when I think about this from a tiered support perspective, I think about the stuff that Kelly's talking about as this foundation of, I'm going to use positive practices. And then when I think about, those positive practices are going to help solve a lot of our problems, but, we're dealing with some complex things often. And so we might need an extra scoop. And that's kind of how I think about the services, those inclusion services that you're talking about are, okay, we're doing these positive universal practices and we still are needing some extra stuff here. I'm seeing a potential delay or something like that. And so having the ability to have somebody to contact that can come in and provide that extra scoop, I think is really exciting. And you mentioned that this is available regardless of the type of childcare environment that they're in, right?
Right. Yeah, we've gone and done observations at 6 or fewer, which is just a person in their home with 6 or fewer children. We've done licensed family homes, which is up to 20 kids. We've done centers that have anywhere from 50 to 200 children. We're mostly, I would say, majority of our observations are in the birth to 5-year-old setting. It is an early childhood program, but our referral system can help with like school age. So there are some people, I'm still newer to this program, so I don't know all of it, but there are some people that can help, like if you have a school ager, like 5 to 12 or even older than that, that's in some sort of a program and you just need more support. I think that they are kind of compiling that information together. It's just not as frequent that we go and do observations by that age group. They normally have some sort of a diagnosis by then. But we definitely have the library to find help, like if you are moving and you need to find a new center.
That's great. Thank you, Rachel. So I would like to ask Lisa a question. We only have a few minutes left of our panel, but one of our parents is talking about an older adult son, and I know, Lisa, that you have an adult child, and also you are our family resource person. So I wondered if you might be able to speak to some resources available or that might be more appropriate for an adult or parenting an adult.
I would definitely suggest checking out the People First of Missouri. I just heard a presentation that they just did yesterday, I guess it was, and they're kind of revamping a lot of the outreach that they're doing. There's a lady that works there now. Her name is Madeline Webster, and she's helping. I don't know if anybody's ever heard of Candace Cunningham. She also works at UMKC, but People First is of Missouri is a large chapter, but then there's other chapters around the state. And I think Madeline's helping. Yes, thank you very much. I was trying to do all that and multitask and I couldn't find it. So I would definitely check with them because like I said, Madeline said that they were trying to develop small chapters around the state, which kind of has been an activity that they haven't focused on recently, but they're revamping everything and kind of gearing up. So I noticed that on the presentation they did yesterday that there are more chapters. Can she not hear me?
That's wonderful. We recorded this, so I'll make sure that she gets the link that I've added to the chat box for Missouri People First. And I know that here we have a large or a well-networked group of the People First. So that's a great resource.
Yeah, and I would check with Family to Family. You said you dropped that link in the chat earlier. I mean, that's a great resource. The families that are there that work at Missouri Family to Family, their parents, their families with lived experiences as well. So you make those immediate connections as soon as you make a phone call. The other one, Kathleen, and I don't know, let me see if this will work, is the DD Council. The Missouri DD Council has a program called the Partners in Policy Making, which is, they've had that for several years. It's a good learning development leadership program here in Missouri. Partners is a nationally known program, and the DD Council runs the one here in Missouri. They take families, parents of children with disabilities, and self-advocates. So there's good connections there too. That's a great training that I would suggest. And Family to Family also does Good Life groups. So I know that they're they're very connected to the self-advocates in Missouri. So I think those two would be great places to start in addition to People First.
You know, also, I think those are really good resources. And also, you know, just hearing that made me want to ask a bunch of questions about, you know, what his interests are, or just, you know, knowing more information about a person like Kiki was talking about. That's how you're able to really connect. And so I also added the Charting the Life course materials, because I think just like changing your perspective, or really mapping out in what you know about what interests there are, and having the person like provide whatever input they're able to, and really getting out there and using those tools can also help you think of ideas you never thought of before, as far as what some social interactions and things that might be available. So those are resources in the chat box. Lisa, you mentioned earlier, like, one thing you wish you would have known. I only have a couple of minutes left, but I would love, Kelly, if you have something that you would, if you have something you wish you would have known sooner, be a great way to end this.
Similar to what Lisa said, early on, I think the provider that we had sort of had notes going on in the background of my son's chart, but didn't really share that information with me until some time had gone by. I wish I would have known to ask more questions. I wish I would have known to push things, or feel like it was okay to ask those questions, and kind of delve in a little bit deeper to what was really going on, instead of just listening and hearing her say, oh, everything's, you know, everything's fine. We'll just check on it. We'll keep an eye, and sort of let things go, when I could have been really getting into action really early. So I wish I would have been a little bit more assertive, but these are things you learn, and it's never too late, in my opinion. Something is better than nothing.
I love that, Kelly. I think that resonated. I saw Brandy giving us lots of head nods, and also I think you're right that, like, you know, starting somewhere, you know, you are starting somewhere. There's like momentum there, and I really appreciated all of your time today. I think that we shared some really great resources, and I am really looking forward to 1 o'clock, when we have Kim Girth, who's going to talk to us about language and communication, and share some really great resources from a program that she teaches, the Hannon program. I have my book right here from when I had the opportunity to take her class. So I'm really excited for folks to have the opportunity to hear more from her. And we will come back at 1 o'clock. We're going to leave this space open, so feel free to you know, leave it open, muted and with your camera off, or, you know, sign out and sign back on at 1 o'clock, whatever works best for you. And I'm really grateful for all of your time today. Thank you.